This is just a very quick video today. Here at Cabarita Beach, New South Wales, I have the Sony A1 with the Tamron 70-300 and just going to get some shots, see how it comes out. Cheap lens with an expensive body. Let's go.
Actually, before we get started, let me just jump in and say, yes, I do happen to have a new haircut in almost every video I make, and I wanted to say a couple of things about the Sony A1 and this lens. I've been shooting with the A1 for a long time, mostly stills, a little bit of video, and really it's the sort of camera where it's hard to find really any shortcomings with it other than the tilty screen could also be a tilty flippy. That would be nice, you know, for the verticals. Most of the commercial work I do is in kind of a standard range, you know, your 24 to 70 sort of range, and I've got my good lenses in there and they were expensive and I can justify the cost because I'm getting paid for those. But when I'm going out shooting a bit of nature with my kids and exploring, sometimes I like to have a longer lens, you know, if there's some animals, if there's some birds are animals. If there's animals and birds, I might want a slightly longer lens to get them, but you know, the really good lenses, especially in the longer length, are the biggest, heaviest and most expensive lenses you can get. But when I'm going out and shooting stuff with a long lens, it's just for fun, and I'm usually out with kids, which means I've got a small bag and I've got perhaps one hand free, and I can't really justify spending $4,000 to $5,000 on this giant barrel. So with that in mind, I wanted something cheap and cheerful and nevertheless sharp, so I ended up with this, the Tamron 70-300 lens, and it is, as you can see, pleasingly compact and light. But it is light, it's sharp, it focuses fast, and with a 50 megapixel body like the A1 in an APS-C crop, you've got a 21 megapixel 450mm lens as well as a 70-300. That's lots of reach, you can get pretty close with that. Nevertheless, you'd be somewhat unjustified in thinking perhaps I am doing the body a disservice by using so cheap a lens. So let's look at some of the shots and see whether that's true or not. So basically this little photo trip I took was to Cabarita Beach in northern New South Wales. This first shot is of the Norries headland and as you can see there's some kind of amazing breaks that cut across the headland and cause these mists as the sun cuts across them, with these yucca plants hanging over the edge. There you can sort of see what it looks like at 300 at 6.3, and as you can see, you know, the background is not all that blurry, but I reckon it's blurry enough. I should also add that I shot actually part of this video on my DJI Air 2S drone. I haven't really upgraded for the reason that I kind of like the sensor. Whilst I would love a telecamera for some compression, losing the 1-inch sensor I think would be a shame. Classic top downs. As you can see, it's the end of the day, trying to get that perfect wave splashing on the rocks, one of those obsessions. So here's the headland, and that's, the movie's named Point Break, but that is literally what a point break is, as in that point is what's creating the break that the people will be surfing on in later photos. There's another shot of the same head. I'm loving the way the water comes out of the rocks there, like salt. Here I'm just trying to create geometry out of the flat lines. It annoys me that the stairs aren't aligned with the rocks, but catching surfers from the very top of Norries Point there, and then catching sunset on the top. These sunset ones, there is some flaring. I could crop it out and I'd still have that. And this is shooting right into the sun, so I'd say the flaring's pretty good. Very slight flares in the corners. I could probably Photoshop them out and we're shooting right in, but I've got that awesome mist look, which is kind of cool. Like the coating on this lens must be good. And then actually managed to get back on a slightly rainier day. As you can see, here's a raptor. He's covered in drops. I also managed to make my way down to Fingal Head, which is slightly smaller. I forgot to turn on bid-eye autofocus, so don't blame the feathers being sharp and the eye not being on the lens. It was on me. this bird was side on, so of course he's sharp. And then some of the surfers just really making harsh level of the conditions. Not many photos came out, but as you can see, there's heavy rain, and I can tell you that it was weather sealed, and the camera was totally fine. Just a couple last ones of the rock formations crashing in the Fingerheads rocks. I'll level with you, I didn't actually get a lot of great shots on this particular day, but I guess I can show them to you just so you can have a look at what the lens is actually doing. It was hideously wet, that's my excuse, but you can at least see what the rain is doing in the foreground. This guy doing his foiling, again a tiny bit of chromatic aberration that I have corrected for, but it is there. But really hard to get contrast in these shots because it's such a grey, wet day, so the only real colour in the scene is the guy's skin. I think this kind of shows some relatively nice background separation and has good telecompression. Of course, any lens that's long can do this, but I like the way that the focus falls off. Again, this lens is nice and sharp. Some more surfers in the ocean. And I haven't really explained why would I go out in such shit conditions and shit light looking for photos. Well, the answer is in Australia it's whale season, so often you can see humpback whales going up and down the coast, and I will say, it's this final reveal of a photo, I did see one fin, that small fin, it's the only whale I saw all day. We sat there in the rain for a long time. So with that failure, let's cut back to me in the studio again for conclusions. So to conclude, I think this is a great lens for the money, and I'm really happy with the shots that it takes. And yeah, we'd all like a lens with more reach and more aperture, but at the expense of the weight, meaning you're not going to take it, so it's just a special, when you're out on your own, your special gear type lens, and you're paying that much money for it, I think the trade-off is actually worth it, in spite of the mismatch of the body. Well, that was my first video in months. It will most probably be months till the next one. Nevertheless, I'll see you then.